Oh man, I missed that Crag stuff.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. We're back with Dissonant Waves, episode 17. No, 16. Right.
Season 2, episode 2. I forgot what number we were up to, honestly.
Season 2,
last
episode 2,
time.
episode 16.
When it was publishing on YouTube, I just said Season 2, episode 1, because I could have just gone onto the channel and said what was the last episode number. Or I could have just been as lazy as I was.
I mean, I edited it, so it's cool.
What do numbers even mean? They're just mathematical facts. Hello, I'm
Numbers
Dominic.
are bad. Reject numbers. Number 15.
Don't lie. Statistics are never wrong. Right, Ritalin.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Hey,
Thanks,
Ben
Ben.
Shapiro, trick music.
All right, so
Welcome to Dissonant Waves. We have 3 albums to talk about. I've currently forgotten them. Okay, now
Hey.
I remember them. We have British India Thieves, because I chose that one. We have Horse Jumper of Love. I think it was the self-titled, because I've forgotten what it was actually called. And we have Of Montreal's debut, which is it's a better cover than it is an album.
Appeal. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
It's one of my favorite Of Montreal covers. I'm going to point that out there, because I don't actually like how overly complex a lot of the cover arts are, but Cherry Pill was nice and simple and to the point, so it's not ahead of Lousy with Sylvie and Briar. It's probably still the best cover there.
yeah.
But in the giant cherry, you know?
Then followed by Sunlandic Trends.
Anyway, so we have 3 albums to talk about. I think we have a week where we're probably going to just stay in our corners, in a sense, and defend ourselves. But we'll see. We'll see.
I don't care what you think about British India, but I am going to fight to the death that I didn't like these 2 albums. Not hate, just didn't like.
Yeah, I felt the same way about Cherry Pale when I first listened to it in high school. It was not an album for me.
And then you put on My Chemical Romance, and then you found yourself.
It took several years.
I was more meaning for the emo stuff, but
I mean, in a sense, you're not entirely wrong.
let's go. Let's just talk
Cherry
about one of
Peel-
the albums
Cherry
before
Peel
we go
is-
on a tangent.
Cherry Pale is an album
boy.
that's very sad and very gay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, like, the latter part is a little bit questionable because, I mean, Kevin Barnes is Kevin Barnes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Ash is just showing me something, and she's a bit questioning. What is it that you go?
Apparently the concert is already on.
No, that's Laneway. I'm at the Laneway after party.
Oh, after.
Second there, I thought you were showing me a girl like flashing at Laneway, because those are quite common. It's a festival. They're on.
No, my friends, acquaintances from high school.
It's a festival in the streets. You know they're on MDMA.
And anyway, of Montreal's Cherry Peel. First album back when they were the Elephant Six and Neutral Milk Hotel, associated with all that stuff, Olivia Tremor Control, Elf Power. So that's like back when Of Montreal was a band, not just Kevin Barnes doing whatever. So you got like Brian Poole, Derek Almstead, and other people kind of here and there. And yeah, this is like way before he, kind of transcended genres and just started out as like I don't even know what you call this, like just like kind of lo-fi acoustic tracks mostly, kind of little bits of rock and stuff here and there.
It's folk. I don't really see calling this anything else other than folk, but
Lo-fi folk?
Yeah, lo-fi folk, but without the punk to make it the greatest album of all time.
Fair enough.
But it's obviously not the gayest title out of Montreal's early discography. I believe its next album was literally called The Gay Parade, if I'm correct.
That's 1 or 2 later, but yeah, it's early.
And I haven't actually heard much of early of Montreal. I think a lot of the period that I listened to a lot of their discography was from Satanic Panic to around their new stuff, actually, because I do give you a fun.
That's when they gained more appeal.
definitely a huge difference in sound. Like, if someone had only heard Cherry Pill back back when it came out, decided that this isn't something that they really enjoyed because musically it's pretty boring, like tone wise, and then decided to go listen to Your Fun, they would probably be completely confused about how they got to that point of well, that being the kind of music that of Montreal is putting out. So there's been a huge change in what Kevin Barnes wants to actually put out.
Right, because if I remember correctly, this was like he started off like this is like his personal kind of almost like a confessional he did later, but after this didn't do super amazingly, he kind of switched to more story-based albums for a while, and that's where like Gay Parade and that other album Coilicot, I don't remember how to pronounce that thing. That's where a lot of that comes from. Just like the hurt of like not having Cherry Peel be a huge success, but evidently it was enough to continue going on. So auspicious beginnings in a sense. Because like you, I didn't go on.
I'll say what my kind of big criticism about this album is, and it's that it definitely does try to be a fun album. Like, you have moments on there, like in the first song, which is probably one of the highlights of here, which isn't like it's a high quality song the whole way through though. It's definitely got these amount of moments on there where I thought it's trying to be fun and kind of that, but I just can't get that with it. It just feels stupid. And that big moment where it's the jumping on a trampoline part, where it kind of just stops and just jumping on a trampoline. And it just felt stupid. It didn't felt stupidly fun. It just felt stupid.
Yeah, like there's a huge... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
There's like a huge sense of childish innocence in this album, which
I know. I'm not trying to say that it was for some other reason I wasn't getting. I'm understanding the whole childhood innocence that comes with Cherry Pill, and I do understand a lot of the topics and kind of direction in the lyrics that Kevin Barnes has gone with it, and I think that's actually probably the strong point still of this album. So I think Kevin Barnes is he's saying what he wants to say, and he's saying it in a pretty articulate way. But what he's trying to say sometimes is just stupid.
I'm going to bring a comparison I brought up earlier on the Discord. It reminds me a lot of Silly Songs with Larry, Veggie Tales, like a lot of this album.
Yeah, it has like a Veggie Tales vibe, especially Tim, I Wish You Were Born a Girl.
Yes.
See, Tim, I Wish You Were Born a Girl was like that's one of those ones where I kind of understand what he's trying to say. I mean, there was a controversy last year with a pretty popular song by Billie Eilish, "Wish You Were Gay," which is pretty much the same
sense.
Same idea. It's the whole no, I guess it's different because this one's more about I wish you were a girl, so me being in love with you would make more sense. Right. And that one's the whole, like, you're not in love with me, I wish you were gay so I could help move on. But that's still the whole kind of, like, same content and same kind of a bit... Like, you were calling Tim, I Wish You Were a Girl on your first listen a bit queerbaity, if I'm correct.
Back when I was in high school, it struck me as just super queerbaity, and I didn't understand, like, why that was there.
Yeah. And understandable. And, again, that was the kind of whole same controversy with the Billie Eilish song last year, where a lot of people were calling that queerbaity as well.
Now that I've taken like 7 years or whatever to listen to it again, like I don't know, it's more interesting to me now. I think it's for me, it's like the highlight of the album, just because it raises a lot of interesting ideas and questions. Of like,
well, I'm going to be very pretentious right now as well, and there is a Shakespeare sonnet that I remember from fucking high school, so that's why I'm being pretentious and can remember it. That was actually very similar to this topic, where it was Shakespeare writing about a guy and a girl, and how the girl is who he's with, but he doesn't like the girl. But this guy, like, he's kind of thinking, seeing a bit more romantic with it, but it doesn't make sense to be with a guy, and that was kind of like the whole belief at the time. Obviously, not true.
Right.
But especially in Shakespeare's time, I don't think homosexuality was quite accepted.
Right.
And we can't really say that homosexuality was too well accepted by everybody in the 90s either.
Nope.
I mean,
but in the 60s, everything was fine.
In the lyrics, he does talk about he's like saying like I can be all these things, but it's not the same.
Asha's just shaking her head to that whole 60s, everything was fine, not realizing I was referencing Smash Mouth.
I kind of forgot about that too. That's okay. Yeah, like there's a couple songs on here that if I find interesting, I guess. Like I think "Baby" is just like a super direct Beatles reference. Which, yeah, that's the '60s. But man, does it really evoke the Beatles?
The fucking sitar on it.
Just get song titles out here because, admittedly, I have forgotten some of the song titles because some of these things did just kind of go straight through me.
It was "In Dreams I Dance with You." Ugh.
Yeah, some of these titles are like emblematic of what I think kind of the problem is of the album.
I do not. That song is just gonna be my favorite of the week. I fucking hate guitar.
Or quit silence.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm just all trying to think of stuff to say. It's a very hard to kind of talk about this album when there's not really much more to talk about.
Yeah, I think the big comparison is like, hey, Lousy with Sylvan Breyer and this, that's like 16 years apart about. Like that's a very huge difference. And some of the things are very evident here. The exploration of like sexuality and gender and like the weird song titles and the fun, but a different kind of fun.
If we're comparing Lousy with Sylvan Breyer and Cherry Pill, I mean, they're both kind of the more folky points of Montreal's career to talk about. I'd say Lousy with Sylvan Breyer is folk in Of Montreal's own way.
Yes.
But this one, it feels like a knockoff Jeff Magnum. And I understand why. I know Of Montreal and Neutral Milk Hotel do obviously have history with each other, with some of the members and stuff like that, to get that kind of sound there, but I mean, it's still a knockoff Jeff Magnum.
I mean, yes and no. It's leagues below Jeff Magnum's work for sure.
That's why I said knockoff.
It's like the AA baseball team to the Major League Baseball team, but okay. Yeah, it's a starting point. Like I said, you hear the Beatles references, you hear the Rolling Stones references really clearly, like more than most that take from those bands, I would say. Like This Feeling kind of sounds like Jumping Jack Flash a little bit. So they're experimenting, they're playing around. It's just kind of like I think it's better than a lot of the albums they were like making around this time. Like I don't like a lot of Montreal's early albums, but coming back to this one, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. And I think it's because there's raw ideas here that are not refined, but are evident of what is to come.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
Yeah.
Montreal, the song you would think the band probably named itself after in a sense, or is like the worst one. It's just like
definitely.
Oh, I'm sad. Like, girl, you left me.
Ray. She left me. Ray.
You don't know why you were sad. Something like that.
Yeah, not really too inspiring or creative out there.
You've got a gift. It's just all about how awesome you are as a person. I don't know if that's just meaning the audience or somebody specific, and that's kind of okay for a while, and then it kind of just drones on to nothingness.
Well, you look at the length of all the songs on this album. Most of them don't even hit 3 minutes, except for two of them. One hits 3 minutes and 31 seconds. That's I Can't Stop My Memory. And then you've got A Gift, which is 5 minutes. So it definitely feels an outlier with its length. It's not the only album to do that. But yeah, it does. It feels much longer than 5 minutes when you listen to it in a pretty bad way.
I'm very curious because when I was doing my research, this is apparently a mix that came later. That's from the '99. So I'm really curious what the original mixing of this sounds like.
Yeah, me too.
Is it just more lo-fi? Is it like less coherent? I can't imagine.
What do you want a bloody massage? Why are you asking? Do I look like Massage Man? Anyway, on this point, I have no way of segueing this into Of Montreal. I don't know. Does Kevin Barnes like massages? This would really help me.
I did make a note that there have been 21 people in Of Montreal.
Well, shit. That's not a segue, but it's at least interesting.
Yeah, and 3 or 4 of them are in this one, but Kevin Barnes is the only constant. Constance of Kevin Barnes.
If Kevin Barnes leaves Of Montreal, will they still keep the Of Montreal name if there's other members?
It'd probably be like a Jefferson Starship situation, so they become like Of Chicago or something.
Anyway, anything else to say about this album? Or should we give it final thoughts and ranking of songs?
Do you have anything?
Not really. It was kind of hard to get through this album, honestly. I mean, first listen, I was kind of excited to hear very early Of Montreal ones, but I mean, coming out of this, I think this is one of the weakest Of Montreal records.
It's no Dirty Dustin Hoffman album, that's for sure.
Dirty Dustin Hoffman was at least funny to read the titles with. I mean, it was an alright album itself, but it wasn't anything special. But Dirty Dustin Hoffman Takes a Bath is it's a fantastic ride of a story, I'm going to tell you that.
Right,
I found out a little bit about the original mix.
Yeah, sure.
Of Cherry Peel. It on Spotify in the UK, it has the original mix, and apparently all it really did was add vocal melodies in it.
Oh, it was it's like Kevin Barnes by himself originally, or
from what I understand, it might.
Or like with less other vocals, because there is times where he backs himself. I know that.
Because I found an AMA on Reddit where he talks about, on the Indie Head subreddit, where he says he did change a few things on our first 2 albums a year or 2 after they came out, and I regret it now. He changed stuff on The Bedside Drama and Cherry Peel.
Interesting. Okay. Seems very not what he would do now.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to hunt down that original version.
I'd be curious to listen to it again. Best song. Let's talk about the best song.
I'd say the best song is either Everything Disappears or Tim, I Wish You Were Born a Girl.
Yeah.
I would probably say the worst song is You Got a Gift.
I already said my worst song, which is Injury, because of that fucking sitar.
I think my favorite is probably Tim, I Wish You Were Born a Girl. Like, it sounds like a VeggieTales song, and it's like the most simple and straightforward, I think. Like, it's the most interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
I think Montreal coming right after it's kind of a huge bummer. And so there are other songs that are probably worse, but I don't know. Montreal just kind of feels like the odd one out here.
Yeah, if you had chosen, I'm gonna spoil my rankings a little bit right now. If you had chose any other of Montreal album, I would probably have it as number 1.
Okay.
And this is just one of those times where you're really just kind of more insulting the other albums, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't always choose my albums to win. I choose them because they're interesting.
Yeah, but if you win, you win.
What does that win mean? Nothing.
Yeah.
Just
I really don't care about
Just
winning.
like everything else on
like
the
having it.
internet. Which album should we talk about next? We got Horse Jumper and we got British India.
Let's talk about Horse Jumper.
Oh boy, Shoegaze. I forgot a lot of this album because it went straight through me. There you go, that's all I can say.
I like the vaporwave.
Yeah, it's low. It's incredibly lo-fi.
Like July 5th and I Want to Paint Horses are just standouts for me because like, oh, this is like legit vaporwave pretty much. Okay, I'm down with that.
Yeah,
Actually, I will say this: it's the best cover art of the week.
yeah.
That's
The
high
dropping
praise.
the cactus on the ground and you didn't clean it until your mum came over.
Well, no, the mom cleaned it.
Yeah. Didn't clean it. It wasn't cleaned until sorry. I can't remember the full story, but it's like 1 out of 21. Give it out of 21st of January.
There was a tiny cactus on my desk. I was angry and smashed it down. The poor fucking cactus didn't do anything. I kept the needles in my fist all afternoon. I left the pieces of the pot in the dirt on the floor for weeks. My mom finally picked it up. 121.
I'm assuming that means 21st of January.
Yeah.
Reading about this band is interesting because they seem kind of anxious and depressed and sad, which, yeah.
It's like most run for cover acts, actually.
This is very much like a college band and like, getting kind of popular in the area and just kind of committing their first big songs to an album.
I'm going to get the run for cover artists up just to see which ones are the depressed ones.
But I really like their instrumentation. It's just a 3-piece band, but they make it work so well.
Just like to point out that Elvis to Presley is a run for cover act. That's definitely one. So I think it's just a label full of them.
That's
God.
good. It's good.
That is a good one. That is like up in the ranks of John Cougar concentration camp and Aria Speed Dealer.
Oh, who wants to tell me about sun poisoning and the disjointedness of it? Because holy crap, those jumps do not fit that track.
Yeah. And
It's interesting. But
I want to give some attention to the song Bagel Breath. And just the guitar line is enough to like sad.
Interesting thing I learned about was that the last song, Orange Peeler, is a bonus track that was not on the album originally, which makes this album way shorter.
Yeah, but I feel like Orange Peeler is one of the best tracks off the album.
Oh, it is. But like,
Yeah, definitely.
It's
Actually,
a different kind of album without it.
Yeah. And I will say the whole album is very self-contained. Like in July 5th, you hear the "I Love You Very Much Forever"
Yeah.
lyrics, and they
Down on my
reference
notes.
the other songs constantly.
I forgot about "I Love You Very Much Forever" in my notes.
if only I wrote notes, maybe I could have more to say about albums, but I don't, and it turns out I'm an idiot.
Like I always write out the track listing. Oh yeah. Wow. Okay.
Let's fix up this fan so it gives me more cold, because Australia is on fire and I have to deal with the heat. To everyone listening, either donate $5 to wildlife charities or $5 to me to get a new air conditioner. Either one is a good cause.
You can buy it.
Yeah, but I could get other people to buy it for me.
You have money to buy one.
So does everybody else who miss it uses a charity.
Fuck.
Ah, that was two fingers directed at me, and probably fair enough.
You misuse charity in your free time?
Well,
I mean, who doesn't?
yeah, you got to do something.
It's just a fun hobby to have.
Like
Some
in
people
Fight
would
Club when
work.
they went to
I
cancer
scam
support
charities.
group. Fight Club. We'll take that shit seriously.
Yeah, but you can't talk about having Fight Club as a hobby.
But back on the topic of this album, I
The
feel like
Source
this is.
Jumper talk about Fight Club.
I feel like this is like the most raw and emotional album that we've done so far.
How so?
And possibly, but I didn't really get any emotion from it, so...
There's a lot going on here in a sense. Like there's the vaporwave stuff. There's kind of just like the lo-fi noise, and then there's stuff like Spaceman, which is borderline soft rock, like Fleetwood Mac kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm all over the place, but I don't know if I think it's in the best sense all over the place. But I don't know. You tell me. What were you gonna say?
I personally, I think it's a great album. Even though it's incredibly disjointed, I feel like the songs lead into it pretty well. And nothing felt completely.
I guess it's I don't know. There are definitely highlights and low points for me.
What was the low point for you?
Probably around Dirt, Sun Poisoning, I Love You Very Much Forever. Like Orange Peel or kind of brought it back a bit, but I would say that sounds a little bit different from the rest of it because it is a bonus track. Like it doesn't have the same vibe necessarily.
I do feel like I Love You Very Much Forever filler lead it pretty well though.
Yeah, like I Love You Very Much Forever is not terrible or anything. Like I like
No.
it.
Like it's another
But
one of
part-
like those. It's another one of those like.
Yeah. But like at that point for me, I'm kind of like checked out a bit of the album. So then like by the time Orange Peel comes back, it's like, okay, I'm listening again. It's
Yeah.
it's individual tastes and all that, and just kind of how you listen to albums. Yeah, I'm curious. Like from the way you were talking about it in the Discord, you were kind of comparing it, like not literally, but like your emotion was like connecting it to like Petite League's album we did recently.
Yeah. I feel like it is. If I'm comparing, if emotionally connection to albums, I feel like this would have to be like the more like sad and anxious and depressed kind of emotions I get. And when I listen to this, I get kind of like just that kind of floods into me. With
Yeah.
Petite League, I get more of like the happy memories. Everything good comes back to me.
And when I was first listening to this, I definitely was in like a very anxious state, and it did not help me at all.
And oh no, it would not.
Yeah, like I remember just thinking, like, yeah, this probably would be better for me if I wasn't already anxious to like a terrible degree.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it comes and goes, so I was able to enjoy it better. But man, that was really rough the first time.
I bet I should have put a disclaimer on this album.
I mean, that's not your fault, so
Yeah.
man.
And then there's me, who came out of it with no emotion whatsoever and did not feel any anxiety.
That's because you're an emotionless robot.
Beep beep boop.
Strix bullied me. Okay, sleep then.
That boring.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Why no
am.
one listens to this podcast. We're just boring.
Yeah. Today,
They're
at
calling
least.
me boring. Oh, fuck. I hate you all. Uh,
So is that did we jump that horse?
I feel like we jumped the horse.
hooray, we're jumpers.
Let's talk about Thieves, because Thieves is very much a punk album.
You know it.
Edgy Australian Green Day is all I have to say about this album.
I mean, you're
Green
not wrong.
Day, AFI, just a lot of stuff from that era.
Yeah, like they were trying to be like even with the cover, the guy with
It's definitely the worst British India cover art. I'm not gonna act like it's a good cover art. It's actually really bad cover art. And I mean, if you went into any British India album by just the cover art, you would not choose Thieves.
I'd probably go with Nothing Touches Me.
Yeah, Nothing Touches Me is the best cover art. That was the one with the astronaut kind of suspended in the air.
It actually reminds me a lot of. You find raw file.
I bet you disagree with me on this, Ritalin, but maybe Trix will agree. But there's a point where this album kind of drags a bit.
Are you talking about Funeral for a Trend?
And Airport Tags.
I disagree with Airport Tags, but Funeral for a Trend, I agree fully.
Those two songs really slowed it down, and then it picks up again with You Will Die and I Take Over.
Yeah. Airport Tags is Airport Tags should have been the it should have been the slow song of this album. It fits, but it sucks that the album went too slow for too long. If Funeral for a Trend wasn't on there, it would probably be less of a bother.
Like the thing too, though, for me at least, is like those songs individually have interesting lyrics, and I don't mind listening to them.
Airport Tags probably has the edgiest lyrics of the whole album, with the "hang yourself in the bedroom of your parents' house."
Yeah, that was the thing you were quoting to us, like the first thing.
First thing. Although there is a lot of other lyrics with this album, such as "shot down like pro-choice doctors in Texas."
Yeah,
in
a
the
lot
song.
to say.
And it is probably one of their strongest albums lyrically, despite the edge to it.
Like 2008, right? Something like that.
Yes, 2008. Spotify says it's like 2012 and stuff like that, but
Seems wrong.
yeah, it's wrong. It was 2008 that this album came out, so this is a true kind of in a late naughty style of kind of punk, emo, all that stuff coming out.
Like as I said, Australian edgy.
I mean, it does feel a bit older in some ways. Like I feel like the lyrics, the delivery of the lyrics sometimes feels more 80s, 90s. But then like the lyric, like the actual instrumentation is more like of that time.
There are some songs that instrumentally I feel a lot more modern, especially like songs like "This Dance Is Loaded," which is quite. That's just a dance punk song.
I just posted my.
That's a very nice image.
Yeah, that is what I have on my.
Aesthetic.
Yeah.
Aesthetic.
Yeah, and dance punk is a genre that you can't really see at all in the 80s and 90s. It didn't really kind of take off until you had like the LCD sound systems, the block parties, the Death from Aboves, the digitalisms.
Yeah. And like, even stuff like Nick the Poet just kind of has that vibe of modern.
The very fast pace, not slowing down. And Nick the Poet has one of the big kind of like shout out moments of the song, even if it's a very pretentious line, the 20,000 kids all on their mobile phones.
Right. That sounds very like, I don't know, AFI or something from like that era. Like not maybe the shout out part, but just the style, like what it's going for. Like it's not as emo maybe, but there's a pretentiousness.
And that was,
Yeah.
as I was saying on the Discord as well, is that Nick the Poet is actually the nickname that they gave to their guitarist, who ended up leaving. I think he ended up retiring from music, so it wasn't like any personal differences. Just that he was just tired of music.
Ain't fair.
2 years ago or something. So they haven't actually released an album since their guitarist left.
Hey, the
Or
drummer?
they had a drum. What?
Isn't he the drummer?
Nick Wilson. No, he's the guitarist.
Oh, my bad.
I know most bands write songs about the drummers because they do. But no, it's
Our drummer is a fucking weirdo. I'll say that.
fair enough. But
So,
the thing I do like about this album, though, is that there are a lot of moments on here where you have this kind of lyrical content and stuff like that, and it's very fun to sing along with it because it fits the tone of the music so goddamn well. Like songs like "You Will Die" and "I Will Take Over," which is pretty much just a shout out, kind of that "fuck you" vibe throughout the whole fucking thing. Is it edgy completely? But it's a fun edgy, in my opinion.
basically rap rock.
I hate you for saying that, but yeah, I see where you get that.
I mean, in the
It is
pantheon
a lot more spoken word in that song to make it a bit than it is kind of singing. So that makes
So what we're hearing now is that British India is a Limp Bizkit tribute band.
oh, that's like saying Rebecca
It's better. I
Surprise
mean,
is a
being a
Limp
Limp
Bizkit tribute
Bizkit,
band.
being a Limp Bizkit tribute band is better than being a Limp Bizkit.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I was gonna compare this to like Rainbow Kitten Surprise, which has a lot of like spoken word or like rhythmically speaking word. And there was
And
another
I mean,
band
that
who
was
did. I
another
don't
album
remember which
where
one.
the vocal flow on whatever his name is for Rainbow Kitten Surprise was something that I was definitely a huge fan of.
Right.
Sam Mello.
And I definitely probably prefer the vocal flow in Rainbow Kitten Surprise, but I mean, that album
Yeah.
didn't come out when this album came out, so it doesn't get to
Probably.
compare it. But yeah.
They took a lot from this album. You never know.
I think this is, I mean, it's not my favorite British India album. I do think it's probably up there with their best in quality, just because I think each song individually is a great song. The flow towards it gets a bit jointed around the middle, especially with that very slow part. I do agree that it's a bit unfitting.
Like there are
But
slower points also elsewhere, but they all flow better. Like I said, I'm sorry, kind of is different than the Stance Is Loaded, but it doesn't quite drag like Funeral for a Trend does.
yeah, A Funeral for a Trend is probably, in my opinion, one of the weaker British India songs. This is coming from someone who's probably listened. I've listened to their whole discography besides their B-sides and debut EP. So just going from all their albums, A Funeral for a Trend is one of their weaker songs.
The chorus though a lot. The whole "My chest is caving in," etc., etc. I think it's really cool the way they do it. I don't know if it saves the whole song, but it's something. It doesn't. It's not a terrible song for me. It's still notable.
But I do think that the opener is probably one of the best openers that they've had to an album. You know, God is dead, so meet the kids now.
Yeah, very punk.
I will say the album had great bass on it. Just some great.
Oh, absolutely.
It had that Audie's just punk P bass. Picking a P bass just.
I have a challenge for you.
For me,
You name an album with terrible bass.
I name an album with terrible bass.
The Of Montreal one had a terrible bass line. Don't at me.
Exactly. I'll give you one from a band I like.
Okay.
Rush's Roll the Bone, Counterparts, even Presto, Test for Echo. Basically anything after Hold Your.
Okay, interesting.
Hey, Chicks, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Have you ever typed to somebody, I loved ass, and then you realized that you mistyped and you meant to say, I love bass?
I have not. It's not. I don't exactly type "I love bass" on the regular, or "I like ass."
Well, that's two things that I'm very surprised about.
Really, it's typed out as BASE by accident.
That would be even worse,
BASE.
actually.
That would be.
Because then you just look like a fake music fan. I would rather be a virgin than a fake music fan.
All just
Don't
fake
you
music
dare
fans.
put me up on that offer.
All just fake music fans. What are we doing here? We're all frauds.
British India, that's not real music.
Even
I only
Indian.
listen to real music like Billie Eilish. She understands me.
Well, assuming it's British India is neither Indian or British. Maybe
Brilliant.
we are all just fakes. We've been lying to you. My name's not actually Ritalin.
It's Callum.
It's Trix music.
Fuck.
Takes off mask. He realizes I didn't need to have the mask on in the first place because this is an audio podcast.
Takes off voice decoder.
Removes Australian accent.
Somehow starts speaking like a Yank. So on that note, edgy punk album. It's fun, but there is definitely a lot to criticize about the album still. So mostly with its flows, and I mean, it's not the most creative album you're ever going to hear in your life. There are definitely some songs which I think were with some strong points, and they were definitely closer to building a sound than some other ones. Like, as much as I like songs like God Is Dead, Meet the Kids, it's not the most creative sound I've heard. However, songs like This Dance Is Loaded and You Will Die and I Will Take Over were definitely a much more in line with creating their own kind of punk sound.
Yeah.
I think this is the kind of album I'll listen to in like a couple years and be like, oh yeah, this is actually kind of good. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm not going to remember it, but it's going to be there.
It's definitely built up. Like, the more you listen to it, the more enjoyable it is. But
Definitely.
there's a peak to that enjoyment, and it's not going to ever be a top 10 album of all time. Like I said, I don't even consider it my favorite British India record. However, assuming as I'm probably going to go more into British India with more of their albums, maybe that changes. We'll find out.
Any final words before we move on?
Put a machine gun to your head and ask, does sex still sell? That's a fun line.
All right. So, best songs. Let's talk about them.
Trix, you can go first. Oh, no, Domino's going first. Domino, go first. I choose. Right. I'm in power. I've always been in power.
I mean, You Will Die and I Will Take Over is obviously one of the best ones. God Is Dead, Meet the Kids. And I kind of like Mona Lisa Overdrive as well.
Fair enough.
East is probably Funeral for a Trend, not because it's necessarily bad, but just it doesn't fit as well.
It definitely doesn't. Yeah, definitely does not fit.
Airport Tag is right down there with it for me. Though it's also quotable.
Airport Tags definitely has better lyrics than Funeral for a Trend. But,
Airport Tags.
Tonight everything's gonna change. Chicks, your favorites and least favorites.
I'm gonna pull out my my blender. It all kind of blended together. Because
I heavily disagree with that. I think all the songs are quite distinct.
They are
distinct
quite
from each other.
distinct, but like I don't have track names with songs because I listen to the music at work. and so like I can't look down at my phone constantly to figure out what track I'm listening to. So like this was one of the ones I didn't listen to
perform the
outside of work.
bass line to your favorite.
I don't have a bass within 10 feet of me.
Now
There's
that
no
is
bass
actually
guy here.
actually the biggest surprise that I've heard today.
Yeah, I should have my Mustang, but I don't. What was the one that you like initially posted in the
I think the first one I posted full stop was "This Dance Is Loaded."
I think you
I
posted
think it
"You Will
was
Die
that
and I Will
one.
Take
Let me
Over."
double
Let's
check.
let's search British India into this Discord because I have a keyboard, and you know what keyboards are for? Searching up bad things on the internet. Like the edgy
You will die
lyrics.
and I will take over.
Yeah, it was you will die and I will take over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much all gonna agree at what the best song on this album is. It is You Will Die and I Will Take Over. It's that classic punk. Everything is fun to sing along to it. Again, the lyrics are great. But is it when your dad had his heart attack? We watched it all on videotape. Good line.
Was what is it? He was clutching his chest like it was a commercial break.
His teeth was white. He was clenching his chest just like a commercial break.
Not the act, but like the lyricism.
Yeah. Well, that was one of those ones where I was talking about, like, you just listen to that and hear it, and you don't need to kind of have any creative thoughts yourself. You kind of just know exactly the image that he's trying to point out there.
Right.
And I'd say least favorite is Funeral for a Trend.
Okay. So, putting away the blender, then. Let's talk about song of the week because we didn't do that last week, but I'd like to bring it back.
Yeah.
Is there any
We
song that
kind
really
of go
stands out?
50-50 with a lot of things, actually.
It's how we record this. It's a hobby.
Yeah.
Sometimes I put in a song recommendation, and then sometimes I don't. Will I do it this week? I will probably still forget, even though I'm benching it now.
Oh,
Mood.
what's the best song of the week? What's the song that stands out the most? If you had to recommend one song of any of these to somebody.
Yeah, it's the same. It's British India's "You Will Die and I Will Take Over."
Probably. Maybe if I was to recommend like a Horse Jumper or a love song, I'd recommend either Bagel Breath or Orange Peeler.
This is the part where I would actually suggest, hey, listen to Airport Tags. It's not my favorite, but it really stands out on its own.
Yeah, fair enough. And if people, I would say Airport Tags probably still contains the edgiest lyric of the whole album. Of the hang yourself, be surrounded by people you know, and you might feel loved. That was like a man. Is this edgy good? Is this edgy bad? Is this edgy what? It's just edgy.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna throw in a recommendation from left field and say go listen to the Silly Songs with Larry album.
you need to do that album at some point.
VeggieTales music.
And with that, shall we announce the albums that we have picked for next week?
Yes, let's do so.
Oh wait, hold on. We need to rank albums. Actually, sorry, we forget everything. Help!
We're frauds.
We're frauds. We're fake music fans. So that's why number 3 is Billie Eilish's EP. Number 2 is Billie Eilish's album, and number 1 is actually the Billie Eilish debut album expanded edition with Everything I Wanted.
Zero's gonna be her James Bond theme.
Wait, she did it.
Oh, that's gonna.
Bond theme?
That has to be released, and then that's got to be number 2.
All right, so real rankings. Let's get on this real. Number 3 is probably going to be Horse Jumper of Love. Just out of I don't know. Like Like Horse Jumper and British India are not that far apart from me, so it's a little hard to choose. But I think I like British India a little bit more. Appeal I put as number one just because of how much I actually got into it this time around versus like hating it before. So it's not my
I
favorite
feel
of
like
anything.
I feel like besides Horse Jumper for Tricks, I don't feel like any of these albums are going to be in when we're next to an albums rank or like a full albums rank. Are we going to consider this very high up?
Yeah.
Except
Horse Jumper
possibly
probably.
Horse Jumper for you. That's what I said.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah. Cherry Peel. Not I'm at the point where I'm done listening to it for now and probably for a while. But
I mean, there were a couple albums on this podcast that I go back to and I listen to, whether they be I already brought them up and I already listened to them, or they were actually fun to listen to. Diarrhea Planet is probably like the big one out of all those. There's like one of the few albums that I actually regularly go back to the songs and everything on.
Part for me is that Jungle Giants is easier for me to go back to than Big Scary.
Big Scary is an experience, honestly, while Jungle Giants is a very good collection of songs.
That's true. So when I need the experience, I can go for Big Scary, but it's like, man, I just want to listen to something. So Jungle Giants.
If you're in a very like heartbroken mood, the whole sleeping section of the Big Scary album you can just go back to.
And Lamina is still the best song of the album, I think. Or one of them.
What was the sleeping section? I'm getting that up now because I'm pretty sure
Waking.
sleeping section. No, yeah, Lamina's in Waking.
Okay,
But I'm trying to remember the full sleeping one because sleeping had it was Breathe Underwater, Opposite of Us, and Heaven on Earth was the other song.
Anyway, that's Big Scary again. Let's talk about okay. That was my ranking.
I needed to remember that before. Anyway, yeah, ranking for this one. I would put Of Montreal last. I wanted to get into it, but like I feel like the faults that I have with that album outweigh the positives compared to Horse Jumper, where it's kind of 50-50. Like, I want to point out that I don't consider any of these albums to be like high in my high above each other. Like, British India is obviously my number one here, if people haven't figured that out by now. But it's not because I consider that as a very high album here. I just threw it in because British India is a band that I've listened to a lot. I kind of wanted to get into their discography and talk about. And Horse Jumper is a bit too 50-50 for me. But Cherry Peel is an album I'd probably say is kind of bad, in my opinion.
Tricks?
All right. For me, my number 3 is going to have to go to British India. It was a good album, but it was just too naughty's punk.
Too angsty, too edgy, too punky.
Yeah, like it was just like, oh, it's the same hat and the same color. Oh.
Airport tags.
Airport tags.
Number 2
Something,
for me.
something.
Number 2 for me would have to be Of Montreal, Cherry Peel. This album grew on me. I didn't like it my first listen through because I think it was like the second Of Montreal album I listened to. And I enjoyed it. There was some the Silly Songs with Larry comparison. It was fun. And Horse Jumper of Love, number 1.
Hey.
We all defend our own albums and we fight to the death. And the next
been a while
episode of
since we've
Dissonant
done
Waves.
this, to be fair.
See if this changes next time on Dissonant Waves.
I think it will.
And this is so. I'm trying to fix this by choosing albums that are kind of more at random than picking albums that are a lot more meaningful. Although I already got through a lot of them last year anyway, with the Big Scaries and the Jungle Giants and the Last Dinosaurs and the God Yay making me cry. God Yay.
God Yay.
Too much shit this whole time. Just pick whatever's random and interesting.
So for this next
week,
do we want to get into that?
I have picked for next week Nothing But Weed. Thank you. I picked the album Hurry Up and Wait by Brisbane Stoners Dune Rats.
Well, actually, we need to set this up a little bit and say that this is like our first 2020 album episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have 2 albums for this one. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. But one's a 2020 album and one is like a 40th anniversary album. And in
We should just do
memoriam.
Rush 2020.
Yeah, we're
Isn't it 20? Isn't it 2112? The Rush album?
No, the Rush album is Permanent Waves.
No, I mean he was going Rush 2020. I thought the album title was 2112.
Yeah, it is 2112.
All right. I know a little bit from our last time.
Albums, the 2 albums I've chosen an album from 1980, Permanent Waves, because of Neil Peart's sad passing. And the other album I have is an actual 2020 album. It is Thin Mind by Wolf Parade.
I was looking at that for picking it potentially.
Let me just get up that and add it to the playlist for the week. So when I eventually, so it's Thin Mind is the one you're on about.
Yep.
Dominic.
For me, I had picked an album originally and was cool with it for most of the week. And then I saw on Facebook that I had an old friend whose band released an album for the first time, so I picked that instead.
Solid.
So we're gonna do the band.
This is an abuse of power, Domino.
I talked to him in years. Yeah, I don't even think he knows I have a podcast, so I'm just picking it anyway. It's called Zoo.
What's the album?
The album's called Zoo, and the band is called The Weekend Run Club. Probably actually check. You should probably check and make sure that's on your Spotify. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it actually is the Weekend Run Club. It looks like there is 2 girls, 3 guys, and one of them's got a fucking bandana.
I've got the album. It's all red and blue.
Yep. Looks like a fucking Where's Wally.
Yep.
Fuck, maybe it is.
Oh yeah.
If
you're looking at the picture, this is not going to work on audio. But if you're looking at the picture, I know the guy in the center back.
So I want to say though, I actually like the album art for this though.
I always talked about doing local backs, and this is just like I just want to get into it at least once and see how it goes. But yeah, so I haven't listened to it yet, so I'm interested to see how it goes.
Yeah.
2020 marks a new wave of music from the group with the newly released album Zoo, a 12-track escapade through themes of heartbreak, self-identity, grief, and love. Well, I've never heard that before.
Oh. Half of these titles, the majority of these titles are one word also, so that'll be interesting.
Except for the Immediate Affliction song title there with All My Friends Are Dead.
Yeah.
Casually
That's
dancing.
a Queen song, I believe. No, I think it's All Dead.
Let's think back.
No, I'm just thinking the Immediate Affliction one that they released last year, which is literally the same title, All My Friends Are Dead, which was not that great of a turn, actually. I'm sorry, every hardcore metal fan in Australia. You need to move away from that band. They're just not good anymore. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Riddlin's controversial opinion.
Look, it's only controversial in the metalhead community.
Oh, is that a podcast for us?
That is a podcast for us. I have been Riddlin. You can catch me at my website, riddlinforkids.github.io. I will actually be releasing the kind of early pre-alpha to a project very soon. It might actually be up on there before this episode goes live, so that might be something. It might also not be something, because I program in an engine that runs in a Windows console, so you know it's shit. I also have a YouTube channel. I might post a video there. but I might not. Find out next week.
I've been Trix. You can catch me at Procrastinaut on Twitter. That's like procrastinating astronaut. And on my YouTube channel, Moonchild. For some reason, mobile app. Yeah, there's that.
Watch Trix review a bass or play a bass, or both at the same time. You should review a bass while you're playing it, and like you're trying to speak over the bass, but the bass is like set at a higher volume than your voice.
That's actually like a good shitpost idea.
I've been Dominic. You can catch me on Twitter at DACICHOCKI. And I also write for TiltedWindmillStudios.com and sometimes other places. Maybe you'll see me somewhere, maybe you won't. I have a YouTube, but it's not really for anything. You can also follow Dissonant Waves on Twitter at Dissonant Waves. Come follow us. We're fun. If you're listening to this podcast, thank you. You know that we're fun.
Before we go as well, Trix?
Yes.
The bass line you should be playing whilst you're reviewing the bass should be the Seinfeld bass line at all times.
Oh, fuck.
I'm giving you ideas straight from the head.
I suck at slap bass, though.
That makes it even better.
Just playing.
You have the power to make the music shitpost of the century, and you are not using that power.
Learn how to slap that bass.
You ever seen that video? I think it's by K-Mac. It's the bass line to Can't Stop, but he literally can't stop.
Yeah. Can't stop, but I can't start.
Yeah, that one.
I was thinking of the video of the person trying to play the Titanic song on a kazoo, and they're just flubbing it.
Yeah, I think there's someone who can remember that right in bed. Hey, Ash. Nah, she's asleep. I could get that kazoo sound up, and right now, and she would wake up. Probably slap me, but she would wake up.
Do it.
After the podcast is done, we'll catch you next week. Let's
have a good night, all.